The Price is Right looks like pure fun on TV, but the people who sat in that studio tell a completely different story. They waited 5 hours in brutal heat on backless benches, and the whole time producers were watching them with sharp eyes. When someone finally heard their name called, it wasn't luck at all. Former contestants say the interviews happen fast, barely a minute long, but every word and smile gets studied. If your energy drops for even a second, you disappear into the back rows where cameras never find you. So how much of what you are watching is actually happening? Bob Barker's story begins in a quiet way, almost like a voice warming up before anyone notices. And that gentle start sets the tone for everything that followed. He was 22 in 1945 when he stepped into a small radio booth in Spokane, earning just $15 a week. Yet even with that tiny paycheck, he felt something forming inside him. At the same time, he was studying journalism at Central Missouri State and working part-time at KTTS Radio in Springfield, moving between classes and late-night shifts with a steady focus that never left him. That rhythm carried him forward until 1950, when he packed up and went to California. There, he landed a chance to host his own show. For 6 years, The Bob Barker Show floated across Burbank, and audiences grew used to his warm voice, the way he could pull you in without trying. One afternoon in 1956, producer Ralph Edwards happened to hear him. That moment linked everything together, because Edwards heard something strong enough to change Barker's life, and it opened the door to television, where Barker's calm delivery and timing would soon become his trademark. Before the fame, though, there was another chapter that shaped him long before anyone knew his name. He had joined the Navy in June 1943 at 19, hoping to serve in the war. Instead of heading to the front, he was sent into 2 years of training as a naval aviation cadet. He learned to fly at Millington and Corpus Christi, moving from biplanes to more advanced aircraft. He finished all his qualifications, even the tough carrier landings, and earned his commission as an ensign. His final stop was Banana River Naval Air Station in Florida, where he worked on gunnery runs. The war ended before he ever saw combat, but the discipline stayed with him. When he returned to Drury University and stepped back into normal life, that quiet discipline followed him into radio, then into television, and later into everything he touched. Television came to him almost suddenly in December 1956. Ralph Edwards called and asked him to audition for Truth or Consequences. Barker would later say that call was the most important one he ever answered. The show mixed trivia with silly stunts, and Barker knew instantly how to guide people through the chaos with charm. Audiences loved him. He stayed on the show for 18 years, and those years turned him into a familiar face across the country. The show spread into syndication, and his work there gave him the confidence to handle even larger stages. As his television presence grew, his personal life stayed more private. He married Dorothy Jo Gideon in 1945 and stayed with her until she died in 1981. After her passing, he drifted into relationships with younger women, including Nancy Burnett, who was 35 years younger. He kept those relationships quiet because he understood how easily a public image could crack. He never remarried, yet Burnett remained close to him for decades. The gap between the man on screen and the man off screen widened slowly, and people filled that space with questions and rumors. Barker rarely explained anything, choosing instead to guard his private life the same way he guarded his early radio instincts. Then came one of the darkest shifts in his career. In 1994, Price is Right model Diane Parkinson sued him for sexual harassment. She claimed he pressured her into a relationship from 1989 to 1993 and threatened her career if she refused. Barker admitted there had been a relationship, but insisted it was consensual and had ended in 1991, The lawsuit became public quickly, and his team said Parkinson only filed because he refused to pay her $8 million to stay quiet. She dropped the suit in 1995, saying the stress was destroying her health. Barker said he felt vindicated. The insurance settlement of $300,000 closed the case on paper, but not in the minds of the public, and it hinted at a work environment that was far more complicated than anyone watching at home ever imagined. More trouble appeared in 2007 when Deborah Curling, who had worked on The Price is Right for 24 years, filed another lawsuit. She claimed she faced racial discrimination, retaliation, and a hostile atmosphere. She said Barker created fear behind the scenes and that employees who spoke up were pushed out. She described producers as equal opportunity offenders. The case was dismissed, yet it became part of a long trail of complaints that chipped away at the show's polished image. Curling's story joined a chorus of uncomfortable whispers that suggested the backstage world was nothing like what fans saw on television each morning. That same year, Barker's health shook him hard. While preparing to announce his retirement, he suffered a near-fatal stroke. He disappeared from the public eye for weeks while undergoing private rehab. He returned for brief cameos, but later admitted he disliked the show's new direction under Drew Carey, calling it lifeless. The stroke marked the end of his 35-year run and pushed him into a quieter life. He battled more health problems over the years, including skin cancer, heart disease, and prostate surgery. Through it all, he stayed guarded, speaking little about what he went through. Even after retirement, he never softened his voice on issues he cared about. Barker was fierce about animal rights and openly criticized producers for offering prizes connected to SeaWorld or the Calgary Stampede. He believed they symbolized cruelty, and he refused to stay silent. He even clashed publicly with Drew Carey, saying the show felt dull without the energy he brought to it. Although he annoyed people in power, he also changed real policies, leading to bans on fur prizes and stricter rules for anything involving animals. His outspokenness made him a lightning rod, yet it also kept him connected to a cause that gave him purpose long after the cameras stopped rolling. Drew Carey entered this world with a different story, one shaped by struggle and transformation. He was born in 1958 in Cleveland and battled obesity from a young age. By the time he reached adulthood, he was exhausted easily and lived with the shame that came from constantly feeling trapped in his own body. In 2010, his doctor warned him that his life would be shorter if he did not make a change. He had type 2 diabetes. Carey reacted with intensity. He cut carbs completely and did 45-minute cardio sessions several times a week. He lost 80 pounds in that single year. He liked to joke that he had lost 1,000 pounds across his whole life, but that 80 mattered the most. It reversed his diabetes and freed him from medication. He said the weight loss made him feel confident again, and for the first time in years, he could look at himself without the old shame. His life shifted again in 1991, when he made his debut on The Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson. That night had lived in his mind since he was a kid, and when he finally stepped on that stage, he delivered every line with perfect timing. The audience laughed, and Carson invited him to sit on the couch, an honor given to very few first-time guests. That single moment launched him into national recognition. More shows followed, and eventually, so did his own sitcom. Carey would later say that night felt like a dream, and that everything after it changed because of that one performance. His kindness as a host also built its own quiet legend. Whenever a contestant made a perfect bid on The Price is Right, he handed them $500 out of his own pocket. This began after he replaced Barker in 2007, and by 2017, he had given away between $187,000 and $200,000. Producers did not cover any of it. He simply wanted to reward people who nailed the price. Fans loved him for it, and contestants walked off with an extra story they never forgot. Behind the scenes, he moved through his days with his own small habits. He had a custom painted parking spot at CBS. His feet hurt often because of orthopedic issues, so taping days left him tired. But he still chatted with fans during breaks and made them feel noticed. Staff members said he slipped into a flow state during shows, as if he floated through the moments without thinking. Getting on the show feels simple when you watch it on TV, but everything behind the scenes starts long before the cameras roll. It begins on that long patio outside the studio where people sit for hours in the heat, waiting on backless benches with no air moving around them. You can feel the sun pulling the energy out of everyone, yet no one wants to leave. Because once you finally step inside the building, everything starts moving fast. Producers greet every person one by one, and even though the interviews last barely a minute, you can tell they are studying you with sharp eyes. They want to see who lights up, who laughs easily, who can keep their energy alive even after sweating for 4 straight hours. By the time the line is finished, the producers already know which faces might fit the show. So when someone hears their name later, it is not random at all. It is the result of that quick moment where they manage to show energy, sincerity, or humor in a way the producers can use. This whole approach comes from people like Stan Blitz, who has been doing this for years and knows exactly what he is looking for. He talks to you like he is chatting with an old friend, but he notices everything. If your smile fades for even a second, or your answer feels flat, he moves on. If you sparkle even a little, he remembers. Former contestants say he asks simple questions because he wants to hear how you respond, not the answer itself. He wants to know if you can bring chaos in a fun way once the cameras start rolling. It becomes clear very quickly that outfits or group sizes do not matter. What matters is whether you can keep the studio buzzing. The waiting does not stop after the interview. Even with a ticket, you might stay outside for 5 long hours, trying to stay awake and excited even though the boredom hits hard. Water and snacks help, but the heat always wins. Once taping begins, you get about 90 minutes of actual showtime, but the staff is still watching every movement. They see who is cheering and who looks tired, and they place anyone dull in the corners, hiding them from the cameras. Even inside the studio, you can still disappear if your energy drops. The fun you see on TV is built on the loudest people, not the entire crowd. In 2025, the show leans even more toward picking people with bright personalities and real stories to tell. Producers notice parents who struggled, workers who fought through setbacks, or anyone who carries a story that feels relatable. If you cannot stay upbeat for hours, it does not matter how interesting your life is. They want people who can shine non-stop because that is what keeps the show alive. Once you finally sit in the studio, everything changes again. You are expected to clap even when your hands hurt and cheer even when your voice is fading. If you take a break and sit quietly, someone may whisper your name to Drew, so he knows not to pick you. Former contestants on Reddit talk about these whispers often, explaining that Drew only calls names the producers approve. So the randomness people believe in is really the final layer of a plan that started outside in the heat. People like Maria Fitzsimons have even spoken openly about it. She said the show loves people who create wild moments. They want screamers, criers, jumpers, and people who lose control in the best possible way. A quiet and shy person might never get called, even if they waited the same amount of time. Outside the excitement, the show also creates illusions that many fans never notice. When people take photos with the famous wheel, they are not standing in front of the real wheel at all. They stand in front of a green screen. The show later replaces that background with the wheel, so it looks like they were part of the action. Only actual winners get real stage photos. Everyone else gets this edited version that costs $20. The green screen trick is so convincing that even the show's own social media uses those edited photos as if they were captured on the real set. Once you step inside the studio, the first thing you notice is how tiny it is. It is nothing like what you see on TV. After the show moved to Haven Studios in Glendale, the audience shrank to about 165 seats, almost half of what it used to be. The stage feels close enough to touch, and every inch is full of lights and wires. The heat is heavy, especially in summer, and you can feel how cramped it is each time the audience is told to stand, clap, or sit. The cameras use angles that hide all this, making the place look bigger and brighter than it really is. Behind the shiny games, something else is happening under the floor. Hidden tracks run beneath the set, so prizes can move silently and fast. Stagehands push cars and appliances weighing hundreds of pounds across these tracks, while the audience claps loudly to drown out the sound. Every time the curtain drops, a new set of prizes appears, because the crew swaps everything during those applause breaks. They move at a speed that feels almost unreal. By the time Drew finishes explaining a rule, the next setup is already sliding into place. All of this happens in a filming location most people would never guess. The entire show is shot in a converted church basement in Glendale. The crew works brutal 14-hour days to produce a single hour of television. They build sets, tear them down, fix lights, and reset prizes in the same cramped, hot space. The famous look of the show comes from careful lighting and editing, not the building itself. The hidden tracks keep appearing throughout the day, carrying cars and furniture that glide into place, while loud music fills the studio. Reddit users who attended tapings talk about seeing these quick movements and realizing how much of the show's magic happens behind the applause. The glamour fades even more when the winners are told about taxes. A big win might end with a huge bill. One contestant who won $57,000 in prizes had to pay almost $20,000 in taxes. In California, taxes are based on full retail value, so even a simple episode can turn into a financial headache. Some winners have to sell their prizes right away just to cover what they owe, like the woman who won a car worth $18,000, but sold it for $9,000 and still paid $8,000 in taxes. She kept only $1,000 in the end. To make it worse, the tax deadline comes in the year the episode airs, not when the prize arrives. Winning late in the year can be a nightmare. Because of that, many contestants reject prizes. Some do it to avoid losing money. Others do it to avoid splitting things with someone in their personal life. One man refused $10,000 because he was in the middle of a divorce and did not want his ex to get any of it. Others reject items they would never use. Someone once turned down an outdoor shower because she lived in Michigan. Contestants can turn down part of a prize or the whole thing, and many do once they see the tax sheet. Even when prizes are accepted, they do not arrive right away. Some people wait weeks, others months. A winner might get a TV the day the episode airs, but still wait for a small accessory months later. The show depends on partner companies to send the items, so the timing varies. Winners also sign NDAs that stop them from talking about their win until the episode airs, which adds to the stress. There have also been moments where the show made big mistakes. In 2008, a contestant played Plinko and won $30,000 because the board had fishing lines stuck in it from a commercial shoot. The chips kept landing in the 10,000 slot. The mistake caused panic backstage. The contestant was allowed to keep the money and replay the game on a clean board. But the moment never aired. Another time, an announcer mixed up the brand of a computer and called an HP a Dell. Because of that mistake, the contestant was given both computers and a desk, even though they overbid. It became one of the biggest announcer blunders in the show's history. The game looks bright and cheerful on TV, but behind the scenes it moves in a different rhythm, one that producers keep polishing until nothing messy shows. It becomes clear the moment you look at how the cover-up game is handled. Contestants walk up full of hope, trying to guess the price of a car. And sometimes they stumble or freeze or say something strange, and the room shifts in a way that never reaches the audience at home. Producers simply trim the hesitation, cut the awkward silence, and stitch together a smooth moment that looks perfect. Viewers only see confidence and excitement, never the small mistakes that can throw off the pacing. Even controversial wins get cleaned up, and if a moment feels odd or risky in any way, it disappears. People who worked on the show say it is a strict rule to remove anything that might pull the energy down, so the final version always feels bright, fast, and polished. This same smoothness was applied in 2015 when comedian Danielle Perez appeared on the show. She came in with her usual humor and energy, using a wheelchair, and ended up winning a treadmill. The instant the prize appeared, the room fell into one long pause that felt heavier than anyone expected. You could hear a small gasp and then quiet, and Perez later said she felt the whole audience unsure of how to react. On TV, none of that exists. The editors simply cut right into loud cheering, as if the pause never happened. Perez took the whole thing in stride, joked about getting Carey to sign the treadmill, and even ended up on late-night TV, where they gave her a cruise to make up for the moment. Still, the way it was edited shows how fast the show covers anything that might feel uncomfortable. Sometimes the edits go even deeper. A contestant once tried shouting out an internet joke during the showcase showdown, something the producers clearly did not want on air. Instead of letting it slip through, the audio was scrambled into a little stutter, and cheering was dubbed over the top. CBS has very tight rules about what can be said, and anything that feels controversial or unpredictable is erased. Former contestants and producers explained online that even if someone says something unexpected, it will be fixed before the episode airs. This is why viewers rarely hear anything strange on the show. Everything is shaped to be family-friendly, even if that means erasing a contestant's excitement. This same policy comes into play when politics enters the room. If a contestant tries shouting a slogan or a political name, the moment disappears. CBS reserves full control to edit anything, so those shout-outs vanish instantly. People have tried calling out controversial names, including during primetime specials, but none of it reaches viewers. Contestants sign forms agreeing that whatever they say can be removed, so the network keeps the show neutral and calm, even if it means cutting out moments that actually happened. Sometimes the moments are too big to hide. In 2008, Terry Canese guessed the exact showcase price of $23,743. It was such a perfect guess that producers stopped everything. They thought he cheated. They launched a 45-minute investigation right in the studio and questioned whether someone in the audience gave him the number. Canese said he just studied the show and mixed numbers that mattered to him, but Carey later said he did not believe that explanation. With no proof, they let him keep the prize. But from that day forward, the rules around perfect bids changed. Fans still argue about whether it was luck or something more deliberate. Long before that, in 1976, Patricia Bernard missed her big call entirely. Her name was shouted across the studio while she was in the bathroom. A staff member had to run and find her, and by the time she appeared, laughing broke out across the whole audience. It turned her moment into pure comedy. The item up for bids that day happened to be a waterbed, which made the whole scene even funnier. Her story has survived for decades because it captures exactly how unpredictable live TV can be. Not every accident was funny. In June 1988, model Janice Pennington was hit by a swinging camera and knocked off the stage. She lost consciousness, and production stopped for 45 minutes as she was lifted into an ambulance. She later needed 2 surgeries, and the impact left her shoulder shorter by an inch. It changed her life. She could not model swimsuits on the show anymore because of the scars, and even after nearly 29 years on the show, she was fired in 2000. A jury later awarded her more than $1 million for her injuries and lost earnings, but the accident marked the moment everything shifted for her. A different surprise hit the stage in 1977 when contestant Yolanda Bowsley ran down to claim her spot, and her tube top slipped. In 1 second, the entire audience saw more than anyone expected. The moment aired uncensored because it happened so quickly, and Bob Barker made a joke that stuck to the show's history forever. The moment became one of the most replayed wardrobe slips in TV history, proving again that anything can happen during a taping. In 2010, the show faced something more serious when model Brandy Cochran filed a lawsuit after she suffered a miscarriage and claimed she had been discriminated against for being pregnant. A jury sided with her and awarded her more than $8.5 million. Her case exposed a toxic work environment and became a major moment connected to workplace rights and later conversations tied to the Me Too era. Producers tried to defend themselves by pointing to the number of models who had become pregnant while working, but the jury did not accept that explanation. By 2025, the show faced a different kind of trouble. Contestants walked out during tapings, and fans online shared stories about energy that felt fake and forced. People said they were pushed to cheer and dance even if they were not selected. Some felt the show was hiding certain audience members by seating them where cameras would not capture them. These stories spread fast and led fans to threaten boycotts, saying the show had lost its natural charm. Producers admitted they made changes to boost energy, but denied anything extreme. Still, the shift was noticeable. Around that same time, Kathy Young became a small mystery in herself. She played for a 2025 Toyota Corolla LE worth $24,157 and came within $38 of winning it. But before she could spin the big wheel, she simply vanished. Drew Carey told the audience she had to leave because of an emergency. She kept her smaller prizes and was invited back for another episode. But the sudden exit made viewers speculate endlessly. The show never gave full details, leaving her story floating in the air with no clear ending. More accounts from 2025 described tapings that felt loud and chaotic. Reddit users said contestants were coached to act excited no matter what, and people who were not chosen were placed where cameras would rarely see them. Some walked away feeling like the show cared more about spectacle than authenticity. These stories triggered long discussions online about whether the show was drifting away from the warmth that made it famous. Even behind the curtain, the work was intense. Stagehands explained that production days could stretch to 14 hours. Drew Carey had a custom-painted spot on the stage, and crew members noted he looked thinner on camera than in real life. Staff worked long hours managing set changes, lighting resets, and precise timing. Contestants who hit an exact showcase price sometimes received a small bonus of $500, a bit of tradition hidden behind the big wins. The cheerful energy viewers see comes from a crew pushing hard to make everything look effortless. Then came one more unforgettable moment on October 23, 2025. A contestant named Dan overbid his showcase by $10,000, which handed an easy win to the next contestant, Brendan. Brendan walked away with $42,183 in prizes, including a boat. The audience went wild, and the clips spread across social media as people celebrated the lucky break. It became a reminder that no matter how much the show tries to control, polish, and manage everything, the heart of it still lives in those wild swings where anything can happen. And sometimes, one person's mistake turns into someone else's life-changing moment.